Welcome to Nitty. My name's Mizan, and today I'm delighted to have this Mk5 R32 on the channel. I've been really badgering the owner of this car ever since I drove a 3.2 A3 on the channel, because I really want to see if there is any difference between a Volkswagen Golf R32 and an Audi A3 3.2, because they're both the same car underneath, and I feel like you're just paying for the badge when it comes to the R32. For some reason, the Golf is more premium than an Audi in this scenario. Chances are you grew up and this was the hot hatch that you used to see every day on the road. Actually, that's a lie. Not every day, because back then finance wasn't as common as it is now. So today, let's be honest, you look around, you'll always see a Golf R S3 somewhere. Back then there was no finance. It was unheard of to borrow money for a car. So if you wanted this car, you'd have to pay the whole lump up front, no monthlies. Now this car started around £31,000, which was a lot of money back then for a car. A lot of money, especially just a hatchback. So there was only one type of people that could afford this car. People in suits. In other words, businessmen or people that were wealthy. Now the reason for that is very simple. Price of the car was obviously very high. Road tax on this is very high. Insurance would have been high, and fuel economy is poor, so you'd spend more money at a petrol station. So for those reasons, it wasn't really much of the people's car. The Mk5 GTI was that car for the people. Let's now talk about the price of these then. These can be picked up from as little as £6,000 for a high mileage car, all the way up to £20,000 for a showroom-like condition with low mileage. They are very, very cheap for what they are. But the thing is, these are on the rise. They're going up in value now. The owner of this car picked the car up for £5,000. This car is now worth £7,000. The other thing to keep in mind is this is the low road tax model. Now this is a topic I've covered in my 645 CI review. Check out that video if you want to learn how that law came about. But essentially this is a 55 reg car, which means the road tax for the year is £340. If this was an 06 plate or onwards, you'd have to pay around £600 a year for road taxes. So this is the sought after model, which means it will fetch a bigger premium than those later cars. I was actually looking at an R32 before I bought the M135i, but when I saw the £600 sum, I gave up on that idea very, very quickly. I didn't know that this falls in the lower road tax band, because literally it's just a 55 plate. The car came out in late 2005, so it is just that 1 year, or half a year actually. And I didn't know that this car fell into that bracket. If I did, I might have held out and got one. In terms of power, this car is pushing 247 brake horsepower and 320 Newton meters of torque from a naturally aspirated 3.2 litre VR6. It's paired with a 6-speed DSG gearbox, and it's got Haldex 4-wheel drive. This car does weigh a bit though. It weighs just under 1,600 kilos, which is very, very heavy. The funny part about this car is, which I covered in my A3 review, is this has got a VR6 engine. But as you guys know, people commonly call it a V6. Now the reason why it's not an actual V6 is because the Golf is designed for transversely mounted engines. It can't fit longly mounted engines. So a big V6 just wouldn't fit in there. The R in VR6 translates in German, which is the word Rye, to inline. So it's a V straight 6. So now let's talk about spec. The first thing I want to point out is this paint job. It's called Shadow Blue. It's a very, very unique color for an R32. It's actually a free option, believe it or not, but not many people picked it. I have no idea why, because it is stunning. You see the deep blue common R32 color all the time, but you will never see this color, and this color is so beautiful. It has this pearlescent finish to it. At the front of the car, you've got projector headlights with xenons. We've got full black leather seats with the R badge on them. They're heated seats too, auto headlights, and that's all you can ask for a car of this era. Let's now move on to modifications. This car is heavily modified visually. The first thing I'm going to point out is this chameleon. It pops so well with the color of the car. Full TRC kit. So it's got the front splitter, side skirts and rear diffuser. Dynamic sweeping indicators in his wing mirrors. He's also retrofitted daytime running lights with a switch on the inside. Full Android head unit ambient lighting, which at night looks amazing. Got the wheels. Bowler B17 wheels in smoke black, Valio rear tail lights which imitate R34 Skyline GTI lights at night. It's also retrofitted cruise control, and finally the car has had its resonator delete, so it sounds really, really good. Now I think there's only one thing to do, which is go for a sound check and go for a drive. this car is definitely up there in terms of bucket list cars for me. So I'm very happy to be behind the driver's seat. So first thing I have to say is this car is very comfortable. If you're just driving calmly, it is a very, very comfortable car. I'm just talking about the seats. The seats are just so well padded that it's like sitting in a big sofa. But at the same time, it's got some bolsterings where you need it to. So it's a nice juxtaposition, you know. Usually seats are either one or the other. This is a bit of both, I have to say. And these are the standard seats, by the way. The option for this car was getting wingback seats. You can get the wingbacks in cloth and leather, but this car's got the normal leather seats. In terms of suspension, I have to say it is so well done. This car has been set up to be more of a city car rather than out and out performance. So as I'm driving along, it's so soft, a bit like a boat. I wouldn't be so harsh to call it a boat as such, but it is nice and soft suspension. For city driving, this is a very lovely drive, very, very lovely. I will say one thing though, I'm noticing immediately, the dual clutch is very jerky when you're in gear 1 and 2. It's very snappy, because obviously it's got 2 clutches, so the car just doesn't know which gear to go in. Almost, it's a bit erratic, shall I say. So low down, this gearbox is a bit jerky, but I can feel it. It is instant. There is no delay, and it short shifts. You know, it changes gears at 1,500 revs, easy. No thinking, it just does it. It is a quite smart gearbox, I have to say. Based on the way I'm driving, it adjusts according to that. I know if I kick down, it will be immediate as well. But I do have to say this though: the car is a 6-speed, coming from an 8-speed in my M135i. I can feel that. I can feel the lack of 2 gears. I'm doing 40 miles per hour right now, and my revs are way more higher than what they would be if I was driving the BMW. So modern gearboxes with the 7 speeds and 8 speeds, you feel that here. A lot of gearboxes of this generation are 5 speeds, so I mean some are even 4 speeds, let's be honest here. So I don't think you can be too harsh with the fact that it's only a 6-speed. For the time, I think that was definitely ahead of its time. In terms of drone or anything, because remember this has got a resonated exhaust, there is no drone. You would never guess that it's been modified in any shape or form. You just wouldn't guess that. That's how good it is. I even asked the owner, have you done something else? Like, there has to be some trick, like this is a Miltech or something. He goes, no, it's just a resonant delete. And I have to say, wow, this sounds way more nicer than the A3 3.2 that I had on the channel. Way more nicer. That had a Miltech exhaust, but it still had the resonators and it still had the back box. So although it was nicer than stock, it still wasn't fruity. This car is fruity, as I've probably evidenced by the rev off that I showed you guys. I have to say, this car is not that fast. The reason for that is this car is heavy, 1,600 kilos, and it feels like it lacks a lot of punch. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can redline this, you can do whatever the hell you want, but it doesn't feel like it's got anything. And because it's naturally aspirated, it's so linear. It doesn't matter if you're low down or high end, the power delivery feels the same no matter where you are in the rev range. So there's almost no point revving it out. Well, there is a point of revving out, you're getting the most out of speed, but when you drive like a turbocharged car and you're revving it out, that's where the turbo kicks in, you really feel it. Or even VTEC in a Honda, there's almost no point. Saiful had a bit of a horror story with his A3 3.2, and that's what scares me about this car. You wouldn't want that same thing happening here. So because it's an old car, I wouldn't even redline it or push it that hard. I'd be quite soft with it, knowing that it's an old car. I mean, it's got 124,000 miles on the clock, but it does not feel like it. It feels so good and tidy. I have to say, it does drive better than the 3.2. And to be fair, the 3.2 engine was on the way out. That's why Saiful no longer has it. And you know what? You can feel it in the car. You can genuinely feel it. This gearbox as well, it's been serviced and well looked after. The gearbox was really good. The DSG is the weak point of this car. That engine is bulletproof, genuinely bulletproof. It's this gearbox. If anything's gonna let you down, it's the gearbox. That's why the manual is the safe option, and I said that in the 3.2 video. But the honest truth is, the DSG feels seamless. It suits the character of the car so much. It's like a Golf R and the S3. People always get the DSG. Why is that? Because it suits the character of the car. There's a tunnel coming up now, and I'm very, very excited. I'm now gonna put the windows down. having an orchestra under your right foot. I don't know what more I can say. Don't get me wrong, this car is horrendous on fuel, horrendous. But the term miles per gallon genuinely for me only comes when a car sounds as good as that. When you plant your foot, you get that noise. Honestly, what would cost more? Going to a live orchestra performance or just putting your right foot down and just go for it, you know? And as I said, there's no drone. Like, that's so crazy, man. Like, the resonator delete is right under us. It's literally here. That's the thing that will give you the most drone, because right underneath you. So all that deadening in the exhaust is gone, it's taken out. So you would really feel it, but no, nothing. In terms of practicality, honestly, I have to say, this car is so much more bigger than the M135i. And I know I keep comparing it to my M135i. It's because I should have bought one of these, realistically. Had I known about the low road tax, I'd be sat in one as my own car. That's why I'm comparing my BMW. And I have to say this, being sat in it right now, the interior space on this is ridiculous. For a hatchback, it's unbelievably large, all right? I'm sat in the front, and behind me, an adult can sit behind me with no problems. In the BMW, I'm gonna be honest with you, a child would struggle with no car seat, all right? Their legs would be touching the back of my seat. Here, there's just so much space. It just makes you realize the 135 has a longitudinal mounted engine, which obviously pushes the dashboard back, hence why, and the rear wheel drive system is obviously underneath us, which obviously makes the interior cabin so smooth. That's why it's so tight in the 1 Series. Now, in this car, Volkswagen proved you can have a big lump at the front, the interior space. This is the perfect Golf. I don't care what anyone says, this is the perfect Golf. There is no Golf better than this. You get to have that big engine at the front, singing like a bird. You've got all the interior space. It's comfortable, it's relaxing. Obviously, fuel economy is not the best, as I said, and the lack of tunability, it being a naturally aspirated car. But I think, you know what? I wouldn't mind if I had one and I had the money and I was planning to keep it long term anyway, supercharge it. I would never turbocharge one. Let me make that clear on camera. I would never turbocharge, and the reason for that is simple. I don't care if that can get me to 800 horsepower or something ridiculous like that. It's gonna ruin the sound. It's the thing that this car is about is the sound. Turbocharging will ruin that. So the thing that I would be going for is a supercharger, instant power, and it would feel like it's still NA, but you just get that extra power without taking away any of the noise. I've driven a lot of nice cars on the channel. Like, for example, everyone knows I love the M140i. You all know that. I bang on about that all the time. Way better platform than the M135 and the N55 engine. But it costs so much more that I feel like, you know what, the 135 is a good, you know, stopgap or another option, cheaper option. With this, there is nothing that even comes close to this. I can't think of anything that will give you that sort of noise, naturally aspirated, but then nothing comes close to the comfort and the practicality. That's where the windows are. I can still hear it. It's still very loud. Driving this car is hurting me a little bit because it's just reminding me of what I could have had. Yeah, I love the M135. I do. There's no denying that, and I'm happy to be the owner of one. I really am. Because the honest truth is, it's a 3-litre straight 6, but I can get 40 mpg out of it on a long run, which is amazing. So as a daily driver, it makes more sense than this. It's just the practicality sense of it, the small interior that lets it down. But this, wow, man, what a car! I love the fact that the owner's done the soft suspension setup, because it's just such a cruiser. Let's be honest, it's not the fastest car in the world. It's not. It just isn't. So you may as well enjoy it for what it is. And I feel like you can have a lot of fun in this without breaking the speed limit. And I say that a lot because the M135i, to have fun in that, I'm gonna be honest with you, I need to redline the hell out of it. This car, no. From about 2000 RPM, that noise comes in, that trumpet-like noise. Just be going, I'd say it's like having the London Philharmonic Orchestra under your right foot.
that needle has dropped hard, bro. That fuel needle. It just sounds like a, oh my god, it just sounds like a Nissan GTR. How did VW fit this engine into the engine bay? How could they make a Golf like this? It makes me so sad when I drive cars like this, because it just reminds me of the times when we used to get silly engines in just normal cars. Everything's a 2 litre nowadays. Honestly, it just makes me so sad. So sad. I can hear police sirens. I hope they're not for me. I thought that might be for the orchestra I was playing earlier.
The idea of a 3.2 VR6 in something so small as a Golf is literally Volks wizardry. If you ask me, it's the best thing that came out of Wolfsburg. They've created a timeless masterpiece with the R32. The design of the car itself was ahead of its time, and with the R32, the trim just sets it apart from your typical FSI or TDI version. There's a reason why the A3 3.2 depreciated much more and isn't regarded as high as the R32. It just doesn't feel the same. I think the centrally mounted exhaust plays a part in the way the noise is delivered. It just sounds so pure from the VW, like a singer that's done vocal warm-ups, whereas the A3 is like the overconfident hungover member of a boy band in an audition. The A3 is no slouch, and I do think it's incredible value for money, but the R32 is just that little bit better, and I think if you're after something that genuinely could be the headliner at Albert Hall, then look no further. It's never been a better time to get into one, and even if the £600 road tax puts you off, own it for just 1 year and you'll thank me for pushing you into one. As always, thanks for watching. Do remember to like, share, comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you soon for the next one.